Hi everybody, I'm Lori Welch. I thought it would be helpful to beginner artists to show you my tips on how to gesso a canvas. When I first got started, I didn't know even how to pronounce it. I called it gesso. I probably went into an art store and said that. So first of all, it's gesso. But I also found it had a lot of questions about why you do it and how, and there's a lot of different ways to do it out there. But I tend to like to find the shortcut or the easiest way to do things so I can spend more time painting. So I thought I'd share how I go about gessoing my canvases. So start with, I have my canvas here. It's just a Meininger art brand, and it's actually says that it's 13-ounce primed cotton with acid-free acrylic gesso. So you'll find that any of the store-bought pre-stretch canvas that you find says that it's already been gessoed. So one of my first questions was, why do I need to gesso it more? Well, I didn't ever really get a super clear answer on that. You don't necessarily have to, but it does do a few things for you. It seems to make the paint go on better, more smoothly, and it also gives you a stiffer surface to work from. And I use palette knives, so I'm tending to press on the canvas a lot. So I definitely think that having the gesso helps. So that's my canvas. The other tools that I have here are a paint roller, 4 inches, and I bought these foam rollers, so it's not the kind of squishy soft material, it's actual foam. I tried the other ones, they didn't work as well. I have a 3-inch just house-held painting brush, and then my gesso of choice here, it's Utrecht Artist's acrylic gesso. I paint with oils, and this works for oils as well, not just acrylics. And not a whole lot of rhyme or reason as to why I use this brand, other than it was recommended to me by an artist that I took a workshop from. So that's how I ended up with this. Definitely recommend getting it by the vat, as it's cheaper and you'll go through a lot of it. So there's also a lot of differing opinions on how many coats of gesso to put on. I tend to do 2. Some people do 3, but I seem to find that 2 works just fine for me in my application. And let's see, drying times. I will do an hour. I will wait an hour after I've applied the first coat before I will apply the second one. And then after that, I just let it dry overnight before I actually start painting on the canvas. So, my process, a lot of people will apply it with just a brush or with some kind of palette knife or the scooper thing. But I found that it was hard to get it smooth, and the gesso was starting to thicken and dry before I could get it all on and smoothed out. So I decided that the roller works best for me because I can just slap it on there and get the whole thing covered, and then I go back through and smooth it out with the brush. So I should also probably mention that as a palette knife painter, I'm not doing portraits or any fine work where I need an ultra smooth canvas. So just going over it with the brush seems to work fine for my kind of thick palette knife style. So it might not work for you depending on what you're painting. But so I just really get on in there, goop up a bunch of gesso, roll it around a little bit on the lid, and start throwing it on. And I tend to go a bunch of different directions because sometimes it doesn't stick or adhere if you just go in one single direction. And since I'm going to go back and smooth it on later, with the brush, it doesn't really matter. So yeah, I go back to the bucket quite a bit and just trying to cover the whole thing as quick as possible because it does seem to dry, at least for smoothing purposes, pretty darn quick. Another tip is this stuff does tend to get everywhere when you're using a roller for sure, so make sure you have your surfaces covered and anything that you don't want splattered out of the way. Made the mistake of having my laptop on this table one day and it's now speckled.
Do you do the sides too?
You should if you're going to continue your painting around to the edges. That's a really good question. I just paint the edges of my canvas black with black acrylic paint. So not as important. I'll sometimes kind of just run down the edge like that, but not necessarily goop on a whole bunch. So if you were to zoom in on this, you can see that the roller itself is actually giving quite a bit of texture to the gesso. It's kind of beady, so that's why we need to go back over it with the brush. And the only thing you want to be careful is really making sure you get your edges where the supports are, because sometimes when you press down it doesn't get the whole edge because of the wood underneath. One thing that can happen is if you go a little too crazy, a little bit of an edge can build up on the edge. So it is probably good to at least go over and smooth out your edges so that you don't have a ridge.
Do you ever worry about the can drying out?
No. I think there's at least enough in there right now that it seems fine for the limited amount of time that it's open, because we're just about done here with the first coat. And then I'll put the lid on and not open it again until the next coat. So it seems to be okay. All right. So, before I go brush, I'll kind of look at it from the side to make sure that I didn't miss any spots, because sometimes you can't tell in the light. But, looks like we got the whole darn thing covered. So, on to the next step. Close it. So, sometimes I feel like it's good to have the brush just slightly damp, not wet. Some people do actually add, mix their own gesso and add water to it. You'll see recipes out there where people put in some amount of water to their gesso and thin it down. I personally haven't found that necessary, and again, I'm all about shortcuts, so if I don't have to mix up stuff in a bowl, why bother? So yeah, but I'll just, barely have the brush damp. We'll just get it wet and then dry it off on a towel. So it just seems to make it a little bit smoother. And then all I do is I take the brush at an angle and go down smooth it up. Voila, and you're done. First coat done, let it dry for 60 minutes and then repeat the process once again and then let it dry overnight. And that's how you gesso, or at least how I do. Thanks, bye.